Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this today because, well, we are talking about the ultimate guide to keeping more of your hard-earned money. If you're a renter in Minnesota, the state actually has a dedicated tax relief program designed specifically to lower your taxes and potentially give a nice boost to your refund. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The rules have just undergone a massive overhaul. The way you used to claim this money, it's completely changed. So if you want to make sure you aren't leaving hundreds of dollars on the table, you are in exactly the right place.
So let me ask you right off the bat, are you about to make a pretty costly tax mistake this year? For years, Minnesota renters had to fill out a totally separate form. You might remember it, the M1 PR, and then you just sat around waiting until August or September to get a completely separate property tax refund check in the mail. Well, if you try to do that this year, you're going to hit a brick wall. That outdated method is officially gone for most renters. Instead, your renter's relief is now directly integrated right into your main state income tax return. If you don't know exactly which new schedules to file alongside your standard return, you could completely miss out on that cash.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for a flawless filing experience today. We'll cover the new Minnesota Renters Credit, the eligibility checklist, gathering your necessary documents, the step-by-step filing process, how to track your refund, and finally, some helpful resources and our professional disclaimer.
All right, Section 1, the Minnesota Renters Credit, a new era.
So the state has completely streamlined how you actually get this tax relief. It's a real game changer. Under the old way, you filed your standard taxes in April, right? But you also had to remember to file that separate M1 PR form, and then you waited months for a delayed refund check. Now, in this new era, the credit is claimed using Schedule M1 rent, which you attach right to your standard Form M1 individual income tax return. Basically, your renter's credit now acts as a refundable credit on your main return. It either immediately decreases how much tax you owe the state, or it bumps up your single combined tax refund. One filing, one payout. It's that simple.
Moving on to Section 2, the eligibility checklist. Let's see if you qualify. Before we get into the actual paperwork, we've got to make sure you're eligible. The Minnesota Department of Revenue has 4 specific statutory requirements here. First up, you must have been a full year or part-year resident of Minnesota during the tax year. Second, you must have paid rent on a building or unit where the property owner was assessed property taxes. Now don't worry, this covers most standard apartments and rental homes. Third, you cannot be claimed as a dependent on someone else's federal tax return. And finally, you have to possess a valid Social Security number or an ITN, an individual taxpayer identification number. If you check all 4 of those boxes, you are off to a phenomenal start.
But wait, there's one more crucial hurdle, and that's the income limit. For the current tax year, your total household income generally needs to sit below $77,570 to qualify for the credit. However, and this is a really fantastic caveat, this baseline income limit actually increases if you have qualifying dependents. So, if you have kids, your income threshold to claim this credit is going to be higher. Okay, Section 3, gathering necessary documents. Time to build that paper trail. You know, I always say the secret to a stress-free tax season isn't being some kind of math genius. It's literally just having the right paperwork ready before you even open your tax software. The absolute most critical document you are going to need is called the CRP, or the Certificate of Rent Paid. By law, your property owner or managing agent is required to give you a completed CRP by January 31st. This piece of paper, it's your golden ticket. It certifies the exact amount of rent you paid during the calendar year. Simply put, you cannot legally claim the new renter's credit without the information on this specific document. But hey, what happens in the real world if your landlord goes completely unresponsive? The ideal scenario is obviously that they hand you the CRP by January 31st. But let's say February 1st rolls around and your property manager is suddenly ignoring all your calls. Or maybe they gave you a CRP with the wrong information and they refuse to fix it. Don't worry, you have a backup plan. You can request what's called a rent paid affidavit, or RPA, directly from the Minnesota Department of Revenue. You'll just need to provide proof of the rent you paid, things like receipts or bank statements, and the state will actually step in to help you document your claim. All right, Section 4. The step-by-step filing process. Let's put it all together. So we know the rules, we've got our CRP document in hand. How do we actually execute this? Well, the new flow is honestly incredibly simple compared to the old system. If you use electronic tax software, which, by the way, the state highly recommends, it will largely guide you through this, but you still need to understand what's happening behind the scenes. Step 1,
You start your standard Minnesota individual income tax return, Form M1. Step 2. Because the renter's credit is refundable, it flows right through Schedule M1 Ref, the refundable credits form. Step 3. You complete the star of the show, the news Schedule M1 rent, using those numbers from your CRP. And finally, Step 4. You absolutely must attach or electronically include copies of your CRPs with your return. If you don't include those CRPs, your refund is going to be delayed or flat out denied. Now, there is one very specific edge case we absolutely need to address. Mobile homeowners. If you own your mobile home, but you pay rent for the lot it sits on, you live in a bit of a hybrid situation. You're actually still going to file the old Form M1 PR to claim the homeowner's property tax refund for the structure itself. But for the lot rent you paid, you must file the new Schedule M1 rent. You basically have to do both to maximize your return. Now, what if you're watching this and suddenly thinking, oh no, I already filed my taxes this year and I completely forgot about Schedule M1 rent? Hey, don't panic. You can still get your money, you're just going to need to file an amended return using Form M1X. The state totally allows you to correct your return, you just have to make sure you do it by the April 15th deadline to claim what is rightfully yours. Moving on to Section 5, tracking your refund. Time to show me the money. Okay, so you've successfully filed. Now, I really want to emphasize this next point because it's probably the biggest adjustment for longtime renters. Your renter's credit is now part of your standard income tax refund. Please do not spend your summer checking the mailbox waiting for a separate check in August. It's not coming. Whatever refund amount you're quoted when you finish your standard tax return, that number already includes your renter's credit. To actually track that combined money, you're going to use the state's brilliant Where's My Refund online system. But you can't just log in with your name. You need a few specific data points ready to go. You'll need your Social Security number, or ITIN, your date of birth, the return type, the tax year, and this is the one people always seem to forget, the exact refund amount quoted on your return, down to the dollar. So definitely keep a copy of your return handy so you can easily plug those numbers in and watch your refund move through the processing stages. And finally, Section 6, Resources and Professional Disclaimer. Look, navigating the tax code can definitely feel overwhelming, but you absolutely do not have to do this alone. The state of Minnesota provides some incredible support systems. Free tax preparation is widely available. IRS-certified volunteers are stationed at locations all across Minnesota ready to help you out. If you are 60 or older, if you have a disability, if your annual income is less than $67,000, or if you speak limited English, you totally qualify for this free professional assistance. You can easily find a site near you right on the Department of Revenue's website. And speaking of language, that should never, ever be a barrier to getting the tax credit you deserve. The state provides completely free interpreter services. If you need assistance in Spanish, Somali, Hmong, or any other language, you can call their dedicated phone line at 651-296-3781. They have interpreters literally standing by to walk you through this exact process. Now, if you just have general questions, or maybe you need to request that rent-paid affidavit because your landlord is ignoring you, here is exactly how you reach the Department of Revenue directly. You can call them, or you can email them at individual.incometax@state.mn.us. However, and please pay attention to this massive security warning, if you email them, never put your full Social Security number in the email. Only ever include the last 4 digits. Let's keep your data safe. And, of course, that brings us to our required professional disclaimer. This explainer is intended for informational and educational purposes only. While we have rigorously pulled all of this information straight from the Minnesota Department of Revenue's official guidelines, tax laws can be incredibly complex and very unique to your specific situation. So please consult an IRS-certified volunteer or a licensed tax professional for personalized advice regarding your own tax return. And that pretty much wraps up our guide. You now know exactly how the system has changed, how to gather your CRP, and exactly how to file Schedule M1 rent to get every single dollar you are entitled to. The power is completely in your hands now. So I'll leave you with this final, very exciting question. Now that you know how to master the Minnesota renter's credit and maximize your return, what are you going to do with your tax refund this year? Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and happy filing.